Just making sure everything is connected. All right, good. Cool. This was a fast decision to stream just 2 days from the last one, but I've got the time right now and I didn't want to lose my momentum. I remember leaving off with fixing this jumping that we have going on with the tabs. So, well, right now this is hooked up to a prototype, but if I grab an instance of this and detach it from the variable, you can see that there's a really slight jitter. And so what we need to do to fix this, I'm going to actually put one thing on top of the other, is adjust some variables. And I think the way that I'll do this is actually not put them directly one on top of the other, but just nudge some things over. I'm going to align to... Actually, I think what I want to do is align to the hover container. So what we're going to do is target the variables in the... Why are both of these getting highlighted? Am I doing multi-edit right now? Weird. Okay. What I'm going to do is effect change on the variables for the active tab. So if we go into our local variables, get out of this prototyping collection that I made, go to browser, right? Because that's where all this stuff lives. And we go to our active tab, which is going to be modifiers on these various tab, not spacing, but size. And so what we want to do is increase the padding here. Let's see what's going on. Okay, so for container, we've got this 6 right active default. Interesting. Hold on. Oh, wait. Oh, well, that was the right. I need to be doing left. Okay, so left active default nudges both of them over. So I think what we need to do is duplicate this. We'll do left active default. This will be inactive default. And so what we need to do with that is update variables that these are using are inactive variants. So instead of, oh, well, no, this one's correct. Inactive default was using the correct one. It's this one that needs updating. And I think it's within the container, yes. Right, this is using inactive. We want it to be using active because it's the active tab. That will allow us to now, on the active tab variable, increase this from 1 to 3. And now we should not get that jumping effect, right? We do a little bit with the X, so that needs to get fixed. Again, we are affecting change here and aligning to what's in the hover container. So that means for our right padding on our active one, we want to decrease that to 4. And that should fix it. So we can get rid of those instances. And now in our browser prototype here, no jumping. How exciting. Okay. Wow, good. So that's probably the most complicated of the components. Oh, and I'm realizing don't have my correct lights on. There we go. The tabs are the most complicated thing here. What about some of our other interactive elements? We have a hover state. Oh, geez, hover states are getting stuck. This has been a problem for Figma prototypes, for me at least, for a while, where hover states just get stuck. This was not happening a few seconds ago, but it makes it incredibly hard to test things accurately. But we've got our hover states. We've got a click state here. And I remember many streams ago saying, I'm not going to optimize for prototyping at first. We are going to optimize for mockups. But we do have the basics, right? The universal stuff. Hover states are helpful in creating some believability. Okay. Wow, yeah. How unfortunate. This has been busted like that for quite some time, I think. I think I need a bit of a spacer and to align this add tab button. Yeah, this needs a container of its own. So we've got the button itself, but then I think it needs to be in a frame. We'll call this add tab container. Excuse me, new tab. I was wondering if I was using the wrong word there. And that can just receive some left padding. We also need it to, if this is going to be aligned center, we need to push this up. And so perhaps that means some bottom padding. 6 pixels, 8 pixels maybe, 6 looks right. And what does that get us when we, yeah, that is just the right amount to push us up here, because if I go and select hover container here, yeah, we're 6 pixels from the bottom, so we need to mimic that down here. In fact, if that is a variable bottom default, boom, I want this to be, yeah, tab size. I want that to be using the exact same one. Good, okay. Now, is that going to work for Firefox and Safari and all that? We will see. Okay, these 8 pixels here. I'm wondering if this ought to be hooked up to a variable. Tab container, 8 pixels to nudge it off to the left. Perhaps not. The other thing too is that this could become a Chrome specific element. So if we take this down to Firefox, which is our next closest browser, if I put this into Firefox mode, right, you can see we've kind of got some stuff happening. The colors aren't right, but we're starting to look at the spacing. But I think I remember too, again, early streams mentioning that I'm going to go kind of browser by browser. So I think this means that Chrome is basically sorted out, because now that we have the tabs working, we've got Chrome in both light and dark mode, but I also want to, oh, well, I'm sorry, no, we're not sorted out for spacing. I've only been working on the tabs. I've only been working on the tabs as like individual elements. I have no idea yet if the spacing for other things is correct. Like if we look at just what's around here, like if I drop the opacity to 50 and we overlay this, and let's get rid of that frame. Right, we can see that this needs to nudge over quite a bit, something like that, right? Or maybe even this container. So let's Get that aligned. It appears that we need our real life ones are sitting too low. We need to raise these up a bit. I'm also wondering now, hold on, those 8 pixels. If I add 8 here, that almost gets us there. Maybe it's 10. 10 is a lot closer. That could mean then that this 8 pixels is not needed. Make that 0 because we've got 8 pixels. I'm sorry, 10 pixels in between. Let's see what that does. I'm going to take that 8 pixels off real quick. We need to raise this up a bit. So we've got our window controls and we've got, yeah, 6 pixels on the bottom there to scooch it up. It seems that my little feet curves need to get bigger. So let's go to that main component and scale this up to 10 by 10. It seemed like 2 pixels might have been the trick. Let's go back. That's closer. Let's try 12. There we go. Okay. All right, and all this care was taken to make sure that these were correctly spaced, but what's up? It appears that the max width could increase. These should be filling. Oh, that's what's throwing me off. I think what we want here is zero space between on our tabs, but we do need some space between with these other elements. Maybe. Let's look at this layer construction real quick. Oh, hello, we've got somebody in the chat. Hey. I can't readily give you some suggestions without, I think, knowing more specifically what you're trying to get into. But I hope that, watching me build some stuff in Figma is helpful, at least. If you have specific questions about why I'm doing what I'm doing, you're very welcome to ask. I'm happy to answer questions as I go. Right now, if you're new to this stream, I'm trying to build Figma components for these different browsers, both in light and dark mode, and different operating systems like Windows and Mac. And then also using the browsers themselves as variable modes. You can see I have a collection here called browser, and I'm trying to do Chrome, Safari, and Firefox, so that way you can switch modes and have your Figma mockups or prototypes or work for your portfolio in kind of a working browser window mockup is the idea here. So right now I'm wrestling with some auto layout and trying to figure out how to get what I have currently is, my layers here that I've built on top of a screenshot. And man, and yesterday I was really wrestling with this. Let's see what all is in here. So this is set to fill. This is tabs specifically, right? If I collapse all those. So we've got the tabs, we've got the new tab container. I want to make sure that this all makes sense. We've got tabs and controls here. Got the window controls with 2 L's. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. I always accidentally do that keyboard shortcut. Okay, let's see what is going on here. It appears that padding nudging I was doing, I need to do it a little bit more. Okay, so let's look at, we've got our active tab still needing to come over 2 pixels, which also means for our inactive tab, we need to do the same. I'm also starting to wonder if it's kind of futile for me to get it perfect aligned with the screenshot. I might need to give up on that dream at some point. I also am remembering from a past stream, I think like the max width of inactive tabs is different, but that, excuse me, is going to, if I do it that way, I'm going to get the same problem. I'll just be moving the problem away from padding, the jumping problem. I mean, I'd be moving it away from padding and into a different value, which would be maximum width. Why can't I get these to align? Something that's good news about this is if the tabs are a little bit misaligned, that only affects us horizontally. Like I've had no problems with the height this whole time. It's just getting the horizontal alignment good. That doesn't impact what goes on below with like the tab bar and such. So I could decide to move on. I could decide to just leave these here, maybe revisit it, and instead visit some of these other ones. So, but I do want to set up, like I put in a bunch of values here for the Windows controls. I know that those are going to need to change for Firefox. And I know that we're first optimizing for Chrome, but still I want to set up my variables in a way that when I get to Firefox, it's not going to be a bad time. So for example, if I come down here, line things up, yeah, you can see that these values are going to need to change quite a bit. We're going to need much less, we're going to need almost probably 0 padding on the left, less padding on the bottom. Yeah, so window controls is going to be another piece of anatomy, and it lives within the tab bar. So let's set up number. This goes in a group. That group is called window controls. I also want this little hash. And I think we're going to need separate padding values for all of them. So let's, again, padding. And I will just copy what I have in here. So we have left for Chrome. We've got 5, 1 for top, 5 for right, and 4 for bottom. And then what we can do is just go ahead and apply these. But let's first scope them. We want these only for auto layout. And I will put in window controls. Say filter, left, top, right, bottom. I'm comfortable leaving, yeah, even in here, even in the component itself, the Mac window controls, the space between, I imagine that this value, that we can have that hard coded, that this isn't going to change because this value belongs to the operating system. It does not belong to Firefox and Windows, which is, or I'm sorry, Firefox, Google, Safari, right? These, where it's positioned, the padding that we're using to position that component, that is controlled by those entities. Okay, so we've got that guy nudged over and figured out. Oh, and it looks like, hold on, 6. That's what we wanted for the bottom. I might have accidentally not nudged it over enough. Okay, good. Or maybe we could do top 0, bottom 5. That feels better to me, to have them not so wonkily positioned. Like if we can have a 0 value on one of these edges, that feels best to me. Because otherwise, yeah, actually, that's way better. Then we got 5s all the way, right? Yeah, that just feels better. Okay. Another way we could eliminate some of that is by setting up more, we could put more responsibility on this padding. We could have 15 here and then reduce this to 0 too, right? Which puts these in the top left corner. I kind of prefer that. So tabs and controls, that could be, again, that could be something else where we've got, yeah, let's duplicate this actually. So instead of window controls, we've got tabs and controls. Window controls lives inside of it, but this has its own padding too. And we only have left padding so far, so we can delete these variables. We'll call this 15, and we will apply this here, tab and controls 15, because that is probably also going to need to change for Firefox. Okay. The space between could also, yeah, we're going to need something there too. So that is less about size. That is more about space. And this is about size. I need to anything that I see that says padding, I'm renaming to size. I'm going to see how that feels. But yes, tabs and controls, we need another number variable in a group called space. And how are we naming our space between variables? Favicon and label, we're in here for this space between, we're naming it after what the space between, like the things that there is space between. In this case, it would be the window controls and the tabs. So this would be window controls and tabs, and it's 10. It's kind of wordy. Okay. It's more than that though, isn't it? There's 3 things in here. I think that makes for bad naming actually, so perhaps we just call it space between, or gap, even better, short. Yeah, when do we name something after like the layer name, and when do we name something after the attribute we're targeting? Open question. I'm gonna undo on this one. For some reason, favicon and label, that feels right for that. Okay. So I've decided to ignore but if I ignore that, then I should finish my sentences. I've decided to ignore the weird spacing. Oh, but it's really, really hard to do. It feels like I'm just on the cusp of figuring it out. But I think I'm gonna have to let it go. Okay, so let's move on next to this guy, the URL bar. I can see that the top padding is not correct, so we can reduce that by 2. I can also see that the bottom padding needs to come up as well. Okay. We also have some rounded corners. But what am I doing? I'm starting on the outside and I should not be. I mean, I guess I kind of have to. I want to get close, but I should be starting with these inner elements. They are already sized the way that they should be, which is good. Let's see if I reduce that left padding to 5. And actually, I think I do want one more. How do I get, oh, there we go. This icon changed. Yeah, I do want just one bottom stroke here. Okay. These need to go in some sort of container. 2 pixels in between. Then we need some space between here. That lines all that up. And let's start naming stuff. These are going to be page controls, because that's what that is controlling. The URL bar is set to fill. I think I need less padding on this side too. It is probably an equal, yes, 5. The 9 pixels of space between. These should probably all go in some sort of group. I want to reduce that to 10, feels right. These probably need to go in some sort of group. Two pixels here. I think extension profile pipe. This is in the wrong spot. That needs to live here. And then maybe, wow, I really can't seem to get this in the right spot. This extension container is not quite right. I'm trying to figure out why I can't get these extension logo like favicon things to quite align. We've got our extension set. Okay, taking a quick break. I'm gonna check my email just briefly. Okay. And let's actually change this to an extension set of 2. And what's going on here? Oh, not turned on keystroke, so you guys cannot see, have not been able to see all the little keys I'm pressing. Okay, what's up? That needs to be set to hug. What if we reset this entirely? I want 2 extensions. Oh, I think it's within the extension set itself. Okay. Solid. So let's go to main component. We want 2 here and then 2 everywhere else. Yeah, because we never did the spacing for these. And then within this, we also want 2 and 2. And this should allow us to go back. We can reset this entirely. We can say we want 2 extensions. Boom, that puts us in the right place. Except this guy in extensions, icon button extensions. No, not quite. Here, this is not centered for some reason. Okay, thank you for the note, past self. Oh, that could explain it. Oh, this is like kind of offset. Yeah, so we've got our vector, which is a Boolean, and then we've named it extensions. And then we have our icon button here. So if we go to that main component, this is not using auto layout. So can we just nudge? Yeah, because, oh, visually we need to offset it. So that was not, we probably originally dead centered this thing using the positioning tools, but because it is visually heavier because of these 2 little puzzle piece little bumps, right? That shifts the weight, the visual weight of this towards the top right. And so we need to account for that in its positioning. Yeah, you can see like this crosshair, it's off, but that should have done the trick. We can return to instance. We can go back to planning. Boom, it's right where it needs to be. So that was the fix there. And I believe if I go, actually, yeah, if we go back to the phase 1 stuff, I think this is all going to be pretty Chrome specific. I'm pretty sure, because if we look at Firefox, like how much of that could probably reuse a fair bit. They also have a puzzle piece icon, yes. So we'll need to make a decision, like in this specific case, do we reuse the component and its states? Do we, like the lowest level change we could make, we could like swap out the icon glyph. We could show hide that. But that assumes that all of the interactive states, like the how it behaves, all of that doesn't change. There's no extra properties that this button needs, which I think for our purposes, we can assume, yeah, definitely, because all we're really concerned with right now is hover state. Oh, my bad. I'm so sorry. I'm not doing a good job of watching the comments. Would you teach text animation and scroll animation? Respectfully, that is not, I think, an area I have a lot of skill in. So I don't know if I'd be the best teacher for text animation and scroll animations. I'm much more concerned with component API and yeah, construction, the architecture of the UI elements. But when it comes to transitioning from one screen to the next, animating and having that have personality and have it be smooth, I don't think I'm the one. I think there's probably definitely somebody like me doing that for animation out on the web. I do hope you find them, and if I find them, I'll try and remember to I don't know, comment back on this video. But no, yeah, text animations and scroll animations is not my bag. But I appreciate the question for sure. And actually, that's not to say that that's not going to come up. We need to consider that, like, you can see that there's this really lovely fade that happens on hover here. I don't know that there's any text animations. I think it's mostly just these little dissolves, which are pretty simple. That's probably not what you're looking for. We can also see that transitioning from one tab to the next, it's an instantaneous change down here. Like it's just flashing directly to the next thing. So I don't know if this project is really the most appropriate one to explore more complicated animations in. So apologies if that's a disappointing answer, but I do want to be honest about what I am able to teach, what I feel confident teaching. Okay, I think we've got this figured out. I want to start setting up some variables for all that padding. So that was, we've been working in the tab bar, we've been working in tabs. This next piece of anatomy is the URL bar. So again, let's go to all variables. We're going to need a number, and let's immediately, oops, start grouping it. New group with selection. Let's copy the name of tab bar, paste down here URL bar. And I do kind of want to follow the order of things here. The URL bar sits below the tab bar. And yeah, let's dial in these numbers. So we are going to have a group again called size, and let's do another one called space. So the size is going to be our padding. I'm going to just go ahead and let's scope this from the jump. Separate out all four sides from the get-go, just because I know that I have a hunch that we're going to need that for Firefox. Left, top, bottom, right. Yes, I'm trying to follow this circular tab order here. Oh, doesn't even do it like that. Look at that. We go left, right, top, bottom. No worries. Easy. Okay, so left, 5, right, 5, top, 6, bottom, 7 for Chrome. I don't want to set the opacity to 70%. I hate that that is a setting, and I wonder if I could change it. When you have something selected and you hit any of your number keys 3, Figma thinks that what I want is and you can't, it's so hard to get back to 100 because you do 1 and it's 10%. You do 0, or you try to type in 100. And you get to 0. So there's no way to even readily get back to 100%. I hate that shortcut. I don't run into it often, but yeah, it happens. Okay. So we've got our padding sorted out for our URL bar. So again, left, let's do URL bar, just so we get the right things here. Right, top, bottom. And then for space, gap, we want 9, kind of an odd number. We will go with it. Gap, I don't think this has been scoped. Nope. The naming of this kills me because it's gap, but it's also all of your auto layout padding. I very much want them to separate those out. Make a distinction. This is not the same as this. One day we will put up with it for now. Okay. And then, okay, so then URL bar, sizing and spacing has been sorted out. We have to address though too, if we go back to our browser Chrome. Oh, and this is a case where I do very just quickly want to be able to set the opacity to 50%. Okay, I will stop being so much of a hater. There is some utility there. For this specific workflow, when I am using screenshots and trying to build UI on top of those screenshots, we need some top and bottom border radii. So within URL bar, we need another number variable with a group. And let's, again, edit this. We know that this is going to be for corner radius. New group. Shape is what we were talking about. And this is going to be for both the top corners. So let's isolate those. We'll start with the one on the left since that's the one we're looking at. And I will go ahead and apply it so that way we know, or we can effect change on the correct thing, which is this right here. So you can see as I'm increasing that to 8, we're getting our soft shape there. Good. Okay. So that solves that. And it should have done it for both sides because both that variable has been applied to both the top corners here. You can see 8 and 8, those are hooked up to the same thing, top. Good. Okay, so we have our URL bar size, space, and shape sorted out. Let's next address, hold on, alicepackarddesign.com/blog. This is the address container and it lives inside of URL bar. So we want to make sure the font size here is correct. Again, number variables. Let's get a new group. Oh, hello, okay. New group. What? Browser. Super weird. New group, please. Okay, address bar, which is, we want this little symbol because we're talking about a specific layer here. The address bar itself, or I'm sorry, address container? URL input. This is a component. So let's get diamond URL input. And again, we're starting with the innermost elements here. So let's first address the font size. I think it needs to go up 1. So let's take a guess and let's also scope this. This is specifically for font size. And if we hook this up here, font size for our URL bar input, that is a lot closer already. What if we go up to 14? That is looking even closer. I think we do want to tighten the letter spacing. So let's make another here. Letter spacing. And let's do -1%. Ooh, okay, just -1. Again, we will apply that here. Letter spacing. Maybe -0.5. Oh, maybe we want more spacing. Hold on. Okay, 0. -0.3. 0.2. 0.125. Still too much. 0.134. 0.15. 0.16. Oh, weird. And you can see I'm not using the right font because the G should be coming up more. So we're really compensating here. 7? No. 0.15, 4. It's never going to be perfect. we're gonna go 0.15 on the letter spacing. The height looks fine for URL input. I don't know that we need to control any other. Oh, well, that's not true. Font family and font weight for sure, because this is going to be a reusable piece. URL bar absolutely will get reused between the browsers. So let's get some strings in here. Font family. We know for, well, it looks like right now we're using Enter for Chrome. Is that what I decided? I think I want Arial. Hold up, actually, yeah, hold on. In general, I thought I had maybe a general font family picked out. Yeah, text, Arial. Because these are universal, I want them at the top. I'm gonna leave color theme alone. But yeah, we actually don't need that. And let's, is this scoped? Font family. That changes everything. Okay, that changes all of it. So font size still looks right, but let's, yeah, okay. We will leave the weight alone for now. No, we're gonna add that in. Font weight. Because I bet in when we go to Firefox, which does use Enter, it's going to need a different weight. Okay, good. So we've got that sorted out. Did I? Hold on. Oh no, y'all. Okay, it doesn't matter because we've got it already correct in the tab, but I do want, I need to go here real quick and fix the fact that this is not hooked up. Font family. And I think within tab, font size, letter spacing, let's also do weight. Oh, you can see I'm not being very careful with my naming conventions here. Here I'm using underscores. Earlier I was using dashes, so some cleanup will need to be done. This is for our tab, so that's the one we want. Yeah, because this is, again, it's going to change. Safari, Firefox, they might use different, or Firefox certainly will probably use a different weight because Enter has more weights available. Okay, good. Going back to the URL bar. We also have, okay, so there's, hold on, what is this gap actually being applied to? Oh, that's the URL bar. I forgot URL input is also going to need its own gap. So, okay, yes. So we've been working on the innermost element of URL input, which is just the URL itself, right? With that sorted out, we can actually group these into something called text, and then we create another number variable here called gap, right? Because, yeah, we need 8 pixels there. And so again, if we go to the main component, oh, I've not been applying all that stuff where I ought to be. Dang it. Okay, let's try again pushing changes from an instance to the main component, because that didn't go very well last time. Ugh, but it didn't do all the other variants in the set. That's so annoying. Okay. Well, we know that the styling here should be the styling here, should be the styling here. So that's easy enough. But again, the gap. Well, how about, yeah, hold on. URL input. Yeah, we've only done the text. Okay, so we're safe. Gap for the URL input. Good, 8 pixels. We're getting a lot of rain right now, which is great. DC needs it. It's been kind of dry this season. I want to see how many inches. 0.7. Almost an inch within the last hour. I think we are in for a total of about 2 or 3 inches of rain. Okay. So we've got the gap. Let's get the padding sorted out. Is this absolute positioned? No. Let's go to the main component. Yeah, what are you doing? So gap is going to be related to space. But we also need to get our size group going. Again, scope to just be the gap. So we'll call this left right, because I am certain left and right will be even. Right now we're looking at 5 for everybody. And top and bottom, though, 0. How is it 0? Do we have a fixed height of 34 pixels? Yeah, if we hug contents, now we need 5 on top and bottom. And actually, yeah, I bet, okay, we're just gonna call this padding, and it's going to get applied to everything. So I bet it will be even on all padding. Good, and now we can set all of these to hug, which they were not previously. Okie dokie. So we've got our padding figured out. Let's go back. This is 50%. Our icon button's looking good. 24 by 24. But this guy is not in the right spot. If we break this and push it in to 12. Okay, so that's what we need to do. So this cannot just be padding for everything. So we are gonna, I'm going back, we're gonna break this up. Left, top, right, bottom. And right needs to be 12 in Chrome, not 512. Let's go to the main component. Split these up. Okay, good. Left is applied to left, but we need to switch all these up. So top for top. Oops, that's not the correct one. Bottom, and then 12 on the right to push that star in. Yes, good. Okay. Is that really? Yeah, I guess there is like a gap here, but not over here. Not when you're hovering on this guy. It's kind of crummy, actually. Okay, it is what it is. And it's easy enough to implement. So we've got our text, our space, our size, all figured out for Chrome. But this is going to be like a universal component. The things inside, these might be Chrome specific buttons. Maybe. I don't know. I'm TBD on how complicated I'm going to let this get. Oh, okay. Sorry, noticing the chat again. I'm really not good about watching that. I'm doing my first project for my portfolio. Give me advice about do's and don'ts. Without derailing the stream too much, because that's not quite on topic, but I will say, just short and sweet, I see hiring managers appreciating personality in portfolios. So if you're doing your very first one, I think you could save yourself a lot of time by, and if you feel like it's hard to make decisions, or you're frequently getting stuck, or you're not sure what to do, it could be good to copy a portfolio that you admire, like also just as a learning activity to like really dissect and pull apart another designer's decisions. And then from there, you can develop your taste, your own personal taste, maybe deviate in one or two spots, right? You don't have to use the exact same colors, but notice how they're using color. What could you do in your own color decisions that show your personality, but also let you learn from a portfolio that's set up in a good way. So that's a do that I would suggest. And for a don't, the don'ts are usually easiest, but I'm actually stumped. Don't rely too heavily on images. I think that writing is always a good idea. It's good for discoverability. You want hiring managers, recruiters to be able to find your site, to find your portfolio site. Writing will be helpful with that. And it's just a good skill to practice, talking about your work, really thinking deeply about your work. I'm a bit biased because I keep a blog. Yes, as Kama is saying, don't copy others' works and claim it as your own for sure, for sure. In fact, actually, that is something I try to make a point of doing on my site. Okay, so now we are derailing a little bit from the build, but I have on my website a hire me page. The idea for this page is, again, like I'm directly talking to a potential future employer, somebody who is interested in hiring me, and I'm outlining, here's what I can do for you. Here's what I want your company to do for me in return for my services and expertise. This page was not my idea. I saw someone else do this. I thought it was a great idea. Ali Palanzi, who went to the same university I did, and crediting her, linking to her hire me page, you can see the URL in the very bottom left corner. Like, crediting people is important. If you are drawing inspiration from someone else, credit them. It's a good way to make friends too. I mean, I don't know if Ali sees that she's getting like, I don't know if people click on this first of all, but if she gets any backlinks, you know, visits, she'll be able to attribute them to me and my page. And I very much admire her and her work. I looked up to her, continue to look up to her. And yeah, you know, I want to be friendly and credit other people for their good ideas, because we alone are never going to have all the good ideas ourselves. Everything's a remix. Inspiration comes from all over. So yeah, those are do's and don'ts that I would offer you. Okay, back to building. Padding is sorted out. The icons, yes, I was talking about what's a universal component, what's a maybe browser specific component that we will show hide. I think everything else has to do with color. Oh, but the roundness, I have forgotten about the roundness, and that has to do with shape. So let's corner radii 34 here for Chrome. Corner. And again, we want to make sure this doesn't start showing up in places where it doesn't belong. Okay. Put that in a group called shape. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, excellent. So our URL input, I think, is good to go. If we go back to planning here, these controls, these page controls also need some variables. We're still operating on the same level here. I don't think it mattered that I started with URL input, which is sandwiched in the middle of URL bar. As long as we're on the same plane, I think it's fine to be working in this way. So URL input. Yeah, URL bar. I'm just looking at how I've got my groups organized right now. So we need, again, a number variable called gap, which is going to belong to page control, which is just a layer. Page controls. For Chrome, it is 2, and we will hook this up here. Gap. Page controls. Scope this. And that has to do with the space. So we will further group this. And I don't think there's any other design decisions in here. Like the URL bar, page back, forward, and refresh are going to be universal between the browsers. The size of these buttons might need to change. That's going to be an interesting way to, I have to think about organizing components into browser specific versus universal pieces of anatomy, I think. I think that will be helpful if I want to ever do this project again and update the styling, maybe when the browser versions further evolve. So and I think though for this, it's really just going to be the dimensions. So let's just do another number variable. We'll call this dimension in a new group called page control. That's not what it's named. It's called icon button. Do we have icon buttons anywhere? How was I doing that in color theme? Oh, I see. Page back, forward, refresh. I might elevate this up out. Icon buttons. Yeah, we'll just do it this way. 34. And then if we go to that component. Oh, and there's some other things here, the roundness of them. Oh wait, that's not the one I want to select. Dimension. I keep scoping things after the fact. This is just for width and height. These are going to be fixed. And the roundness of them, we've got 10 here, 10 and 10. New group. This is about the size, but we need another one for the shape. Corner, radii. Let's scope this one before we apply it. And this is for a group called shape. Oh, whoops, I set it to 0. It needs to be 10. Okay, good. Other design decisions in here. These don't really need a gap. That's silly. I mean, it wasn't hurting. It doesn't make a difference necessarily. I guess this guy could, but this might be Chrome specific. We're going to see when we get to Firefox. Okay. The extension, these are tricky too. These feel like they could be kind of Chrome specific, because what's going on with Firefox? Oh, what about dark and light mode? Have you got a top level color change on all elements? I do. Yep, yeah. No, you're good. That was a lot of the earlier streams that I did, was setting up this entire collection. And then I'm gonna have to take all those variables and fold them into this color theme here, basically duplicate every single variable that's in the other collection into this one, because I need to fold in light and dark mode for Chrome, but it's going to be a single variable. So like an example of that, if we go for something really something kind of like a higher level one. Like the URL input, right? So this is all in the context of Chrome. Like I've only done color modes for Chrome. So eventually I'll have to do Firefox, Safari, light and dark mode for each of those. So when we're looking at URL input, the fill color, this kind of like dusty light blue, EEF2, F9, this is what it looks like in light and in dark for Chrome. And then I will have also background default. I'll have this the same variable in browser, right? Background default. It's going to alias in this one. They're going to have the same name, but I get light and dark mode for free. But because this belongs to a group called Chrome, it needs to go specifically here, and then I will have another one for Safari, right? And Firefox. I'll eventually duplicate this whole group, call it Safari, call it Firefox. So this threading, right? I mean, it's aliasing, but it's like a really specific way of aliasing. The action is the same. I'm not doing anything like hacky or workaround in Figma. I'm just being really, really intentional about what gets aliased where. And so that allows me to kind of get around having to do Chrome light, Chrome dark, and then Firefox light, Firefox dark. I don't need more than 4 modes very often because I'm doing this more elaborate stringing together of things. But yes, it is a lot of groups to keep track of, as you've noted. There are consequences to working in such a complicated way as this. Like, it is very difficult to untangle. You have to make a lot of weird little decisions. I don't know if it's really sustainable. I don't think I would be much more hesitant to do this for an actual like product that's shipping, because it is so tangly. I think I would want more rigor if this was like a team effort, if this was for like a design system especially, but this is such a specific build. Like, it's just these browsers, it's a very closed system. So that's what allows me to get away with it. So yeah, if we go back into browser and I was doing the page controls, getting the dimensions set up for URL input. This container, what are these? This is like extensions, profile, more menu. But that's so, I'm naming this very specific to Chrome. What is it in other places? Let's get this layer named something that works for everything. I mean, yeah, okay. Oh, do we have... Okay, so those are our page controls. We've got icon buttons, then we've got URL bar. Yeah, we've got the size, space, and shape, and then the things within it. All right, here we go. Page controls come first. I also want the order here to reflect the order down here. You can see we've got URL bar. And then apart from these guys, which are the attributes of the URL bar, these are like nested things within, which we've got page controls, URL input. I'm comfortable having it live here because it just does. And like, you can see the tabs live above. Like, I really want the way that the variables are organized to mostly reflect the way the pages are organized, because that's what helps me keep track of all this stuff. Like, I know where to go looking for things. And you have to be really scrupulous, I think, in your layers, right? To make this kind of thing work the way I want it to work. So it's kind of a virtuous cycle. Being organized in one place forces organization in other places. So the next thing is going to be this extension profile more menu. And we need a gap. So I'm going to grab that. We're going to do another number variable. We know it's going to be called gap. It needs to be in a group called that super long thing, and I want to append the little thing here. For Chrome, it's a gap of 9. What else about this? We've got more things inside of here. There's the pipe, which is, I think, a Chrome specific thing. In fact, Chrome only. I'm going to go ahead and apply this kind of universal Boolean to that thing. So if we scroll down here, no pipes. And when I go into Firefox mode, the absence of this pipe is going to change the gap value. So that's our, yeah, I'm glad to have that set up. Okay, so then within this, we've got our extension container and the profile and the more menu. This also has, these things also have gaps. I'm comfortable. Am I comfortable? What am I trying to do here? Let's put a group here. Let's call this, it's all 2. It's going to be 2 across the board. We've got 2 here, 2 here, and 2 here, all for the gap. So how do you name that? I mean, it's also gap. Did I already scope this? Nope. How do you name this? This is like extension but also profile menu. I'm probably going to regret this naming, but I kind of want to just throw it down and move on. Oh, hold on. Yeah, we want the one with 2. And then for here, we'll come to the main component. I think this one will be a universal component too. I think. So now we've got 3 things hooked up to that. Something I know I'm probably missing for color is this tiny stroke on the bottom of URL bar, which means I need to come into color theme. We're going to briefly take a visit back into color theme. URL bar. We've got our background color, but we also need bottom stroke. And that is gonna, let's sample that. Oh, weird. Kind of a weird green gray. Okay, and what about in dark mode? I know we have a screenshot of Chrome dark mode somewhere. No? Okay. Cool. And we can apply that to this guy. Bottom stroke. Let's edit this. Again, very specific use. And I'm so glad that I moved this out of the way. You can see that I probably want to take this browser Chrome tab bar background, this should just get applied to the background of the whole thing. So tab bar, yep, background, which means this doesn't need to have that fill because I have these little corner radii that need to get accounted for. Okay. Oh my gosh, it's all coming together. I could stop here. I probably should stop here and consider lunch. That means I can do bookmarks next. Yeah, I'm gonna cut it off here. Okay, next stream is gonna be that bookmark bar. I think I've got everything I need in terms of spacing and color for those, for the tab bar, the URL bar, and then bookmarks is last. And I think if I get bookmarks done, that means Chrome will be finished in light and dark mode, which is really exciting. I will also maybe consider making that available as like a standalone download if you are interested in making mockups and prototypes only with like Chrome as like a browser container. You know, you don't have to wait for me to do Firefox and Safari to get your hands on the Chrome piece. I might also, you know, make it like a pay what you want situation. There will be like a mechanism for, this is also a way to get people kind of on my little newsletter, if you're not already on my newsletter where I write about componentry. But yeah, happy to make this kind of an optional freebie. If you don't want it to be a freebie, it doesn't have to be. Anyway, I'll think about all this, but stay tuned. If you are not already on my newsletter, that's probably like, how am I going to announce this? I could do it on Twitter. I want to make sure people know what they're getting into, have some sort of way to advertise this download. I guess stay tuned for the next stream. I will have a plan in place for the next stream because first I need to finish the bookmarks bar. Only after I finish that bookmarks bar can I think about making this as like a standalone little mini product, a little mini freebie available. So definitely tune into the next stream. At the very least, if you can't make it to the next stream, check out the video description of the next stream once it wraps up, because that is where I will put the details of how to get your hands on the Google Chrome mockup kind of thing that I've been working on here. So thank you guys for watching and tuning in. It was fun to answer questions along the way, and stay warm if it is cold where you are in the world.